So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to actually use the body to do some of the stuff that Eddie was talking about. So when I work with clients, I really work holistically. So I work from a mind, body, spirit framework. And I do this by incorporating the body specifically through yoga into traditional talk therapy. And I could explain this to you, and I could talk a lot about it, and I have a lot of stuff I'm excited to share with you. But since the body is a very experiential framework to work with, I'd actually like to just start with an exercise to do a little practice, if you guys are willing. So you're welcome to stay seated, but I also invite you to stand up, whichever one feels more comfortable for you. And I invite you to either close your eyes or just cast your gaze downwards. So allow your focus to become more internal. And take a couple moments just to ground into the room. You might do that by using your 5 senses, so noticing what you're hearing. Even with the eyes closed, notice the quality of darkness or light behind the eyelids. You might notice anything that you smell, or just the sense of breath moving at the tip of the nose. And then when you're ready, taking a deep inhale through the nose and let it out through the mouth. And once more like that, deep inhale and exhale through the mouth. Now bringing your focus into your body, bringing your awareness into your feet, and I invite you to begin to explore a little bit of movement here. So that may just look like tapping your toes, maybe rocking back and forth on the feet. Perhaps you start to bring the legs into it, maybe bending the knees a little bit, shifting the hips, beginning to explore what this movement looks like for you, what your body needs, and what sensations are coming up as you move. Taking your time, but as you're ready, moving your attention up into your torso. And I invite you to explore movement here, and perhaps that looks like a twist side to side, perhaps a side bend one side to the other. Noticing what your body is asking for, noticing the sensations that are coming up. And that may naturally move up into the shoulders and the arms, perhaps some shoulder circles. You may stretch the arms forward, back, overhead. Really paying attention to what your body is asking for in this moment. As you're ready, releasing the arms. Bringing the attention into the head and the face. So you may gently turn the head side to side or up and down. Perhaps you explore circles. Maybe you squinch your face into a prune face and relax it. And releasing that exploration. As you scan through the body, noticing if there's any particular place in the body that drew your attention. It's okay if nowhere did, you can just pick somewhere. But bringing your attention to that spot and noticing if that area in your body that calls your attention, does it want a particular movement? Does it want to change in shape? And go ahead and take that. You may even bring a hand to that spot. Perhaps all that you want is breath and attention in that place. But spend a few moments noticing what that spot that drew your attention is saying to you. So noticing sensations, thoughts, emotions. You may notice that you don't feel anything, that there's an absence or a numbness, and all of this is fine. We're just observing. You may stop with that, or I invite you to pose the question to that part of your body. Is there anything that you want to say? Is there anything that that part of the body has to say? Again, it's fine if the answer is no or I don't want to ask the question, but I invite you to experiment with that. And then taking what you noticed from that body part and thinking about if that relates to what's going on in your life, outside of this room, outside of this practice. And it may not. But seeing if there's a connection there from what your body is speaking to what's been happening for you. Taking another deep inhale. And again, open the mouth, sigh it out. If you wish, bringing the palms together in front of the heart. And perhaps bowing the head, bowing your mind, wisdom, and knowledge, and acknowledgement of your body wisdom and knowledge. And as you're ready, you can release the hands, open the eyes, and come back to your seat. So why do I think it's so important to bring the body into therapy? So if you think about it, everything that you have ever been through in your entire life, everything that your conscious mind and awareness has been through, your body has been there with you. It has experienced everything that you have ever gone through. And aside from what Eddie said about sort of the difference between stimulus and response, for a lot of things, every emotion, fear, happiness, peace, anger, often does have a correlating set of body sensations. And so we're not very good and practiced at listening to our bodies. We live, a lot of us, from head up, and this is especially true with trauma and anxiety. The physical sensations associated with those past experiences become often so scary and so intense and overwhelming that the only thing to do to preserve is to sort of cut them off, put them aside, and live very much from the neck up. And what this does is we know when we ignore anything, it comes back stronger and in a sort of convoluted and confused way. And so those sensations which were already overwhelming and scary sort of pop up in unknown ways. They seem alien and even more frightening. So because our experiences, our whole life experiences, are not just in our heads, it's really important, I think, in therapy to not just work with the head. So talk therapy, as probably most of us know and think, is wonderfully healing. It's so beneficial to be able to make sense of our experiences, to have them held in a compassionate way and seen and heard. However, just because we've processed something with our intellectual mind, said, all right, I understand why this happened, I understand why it affected me, I've sorted it all out and set it aside, does not mean your body got the memo. So your body may still be functioning as though that past trauma or experience is still present, and it will be reacting in this way in conflict with what your mind is telling you. And this is very confusing and upsetting. So this is why bringing the body into therapy is so incredibly important. So the same thing that we do for the mind is organize the experience in a safe space to be able to let it go. We have to do with the body, and we do that through the felt sense and the physical exercises. So what does this look like? And I mentioned I use yoga. And just a brief note about yoga. So in the West, yoga we really know is a set of postures and breathing exercises, which is true. But it is a very fraction of what yoga is. Yoga is a broad philosophy, a way of life that incorporates connection to self, self-compassion, compassion for the world, self-knowledge, and then ultimately a connection to the divine. And there are many different practices that you can start to practice those exercises. So the way this looks like for me in therapy when I practice is a couple of different ways. So one of the ways is it'll look a lot like traditional talk therapy. Not everybody is ready to get down on the mat right away. And especially for people with trauma and anxiety, they often don't even know that they have a body. They're so cut off and the sensations are so scary that you cannot just dump them in the deep end. So it would look a lot like regular talk therapy, that we would sit and we would talk and we would do grounding exercises. We would do some basic breathing exercises and a lot to help people just notice gently and incredibly slowly that they have a body. And then another way that that can look when people who come in are maybe already a little more comfortable and stable in their bodies, or eventually with people with trauma and anxiety, is we will get down on the mat and do some gentle postures and movement. We'll continue to dialogue, though. So instead of dialoguing, starting with the head and saying what's going on in your body, we'll start by moving the body and ask the body, what's going on here? What are you noticing? How is this connecting to your life, to what's going on for you? And so we're creating that integration at all times from both directions. And I'm not at all rigid about this, so we don't progress slowly from one to the other necessarily. It can go back and forth with each patient week to week. So sometimes people will come in and say, I need to be on the mat. I can't talk. I need to be in my body, and we'll do that. And sometimes people will come in and say, I need to talk this out. And it'll always be from the framework of including the body and mindfulness and yoga, but it's very much based on what a client's particular need is in that week. So, and just one small note about sort of the larger availability, the larger things that yoga has to offer, is as people become more comfortable in their bodies and more conversant with sort of this union of mind and body, they start to be able to have more communion with themselves, but also their community. Relationships will improve. And also this comes a really good opportunity for developing a connection with the divine, whatever that means for the individual person. And so this is where more practices that would look more like some of the Buddhist practices like metta, self-compassion, world compassion, can begin to come in. So I'm going to stop with that, but I want to just thank you all so much for having me and for your willingness to participate and share your experience of that with me. So, thank you.